Today I want to talk about my suicide and how it was such a life-changing event, rather a turning point. One would expect that of suicide though, wouldn't you? Win, lose, or draw, it's got to change something. I tried writing about this before, but as I said, it started getting too dark, too deep, just too much. So we'll try not to go into too much detail. But this came up because I heard yesterday of Anthony Bourdain committing suicide. And I don't generally follow celebrities a lot. You know, I enjoy their work, but I don't feel any real connection to them. And if they die, it's a bummer, but it doesn't really affect me personally. This one kind of did. I think a lot of the reason why was because he was someone that seemed more like just a regular guy. Someone you'd want to hang out with, the life of the party, and someone I identified with in a lot of different ways. I used to be a cook, and when I read his Kitchen Confidential, the book, it just killed me all the way through because it was so on point. It was the kitchen. It was just so much the kitchen life and the people. I knew every one of those people, you know. I was those people. I could have been standing next to him in that kitchen. It was just, he was a great storyteller. He had a love of food, a love of travel, both of which I also have. You know, he did talk about his demons and the troubles in his past and his addiction issues, but he seemed to be on top of it. He seemed like he was doing well. One never knows. So I will talk about my story of facing death, and it will be kind of mixed in with some of my thoughts on him as well, just because it's fresh on the mind. I had dealt with depression over the years, and my headaches and seizures did make it a lot worse. It really exacerbated the problem. And it all came to a head in about, well, the seizures and all that started in '92. I got out of the Navy, and in the next 3 years I changed jobs 4 times and was starting into a divorce. So it all kind of came to a head. It was like 96, 97, I forget exactly. You should remember those things. My memory is not what it used to be. There's whole years that are missing. Depression's a crazy thing. But some say, like, suicide attempts are a cry for help. For me, it was not going to be a cry for help. There was not going to be an attempt. I was either going to do it or not. And I found myself, I was working downtown in Dallas, doing air conditioning for half a dozen buildings. So I was on a rotating shift, which is a horrible thing, working nights, evenings, days, rotating around. It's a terrible shift. But it was about 3 in the morning. I was up on the roof of one of the buildings, walking the ledge as I did just because it was fun. And everything had just kind of become too much. So there I was on the ledge of the building, looking down, wondering what Rorschach pattern I would make when I hit. It got to where sometimes it's just too much. And you always kind of think in the back of your mind, well, I wouldn't do this, you know. Suicide's not really an option, but it's always an option. And when I finally got to the point that I thought it was the only viable option, there was this moment, frozen in time. I was on the ledge. The next step was going to be off. The next step had to take me off that ledge, one direction or the other, which is where the next step comes from in the name of my channel. It was also the name of the book that I decided not to write. But in that moment, and it was just this brief moment, frozen in time, my entire life flashed before my eyes, as I thought it would if I was falling, but it did before I took that step. And everything came rushing back. That moment was a lifetime. It was everything. And the good and the bad. There's kind of a scale going. It was like, should I, shouldn't I? And just everything came rushing back at once. And it was just crushing. You could feel it. It was like my chest was just crushing from the weight. And it was going, I could tell it was just too much. And I knew there was no other option. And as it went through and I was looking at all this, when it came to an end, I realized if I were to step off and die, I would just be walking away from all my problems and dying. It sounded good at the time, but I had a thought. It's like an epiphany. What if I walk away from the problems and live? And now you can't just run away. I tell people that want to, move overseas, I said, if you're miserable where you are and you've got all these problems, you're probably not going to be happy here, because you bring most of that with you, all that baggage, all that emotional baggage, and all your personality quirks and whatever you bring with you. No matter where you go, there you are, right? So I didn't turn my life around immediately. This was not like I decided not to kill myself and everything was peaches and cream. I turned around, I took the next step back onto the roof, and I decided I needed to unpack all that damn baggage. And I had to go through, and it took years. This was not an easy or a short process, but I went through everything, and I had to sort it out and put it away and quit carrying it with me, because the weight of it was killing me, quite literally. And there are things you look at and you go, well, yeah, there's a lesson here, there's this, there's that. You can forgive people, you can, there's a lot of different, everything, every event had to be handled differently. And there are some, I've said in other videos, that things happen completely out of your control when they happen. And after they happen, you certainly can't change them, because the past is the past. And so there are things you have to look at and go, well, damn, that happened. It sucked. I can't change it. All I can change is how I react to it. So I'm not running from it, I'm not hiding from it, but there are things that happen that you just kind of go, well, fuck that, and you put it away, you just throw it away. You can't come to terms. Some of it is like, well, yeah, move on. You have to just let it go sometimes. And some of those are hard, and it just took a long time. It took some therapy. There was various medications. I didn't like any of the medications I was on. Psychiatrists give weird medications. I didn't like any of them. But it took a long time. It took years to go through all of it. And it is a constant thing you still have to do, because things still happen. You're learning to deal with the issues. Instead of dragging everything with you, you've got to learn to deal with it. You've got to let go of some of it. You've got to deal with certain ones. You got to know which ones you can deal with and which ones to just drop. And it's not always easy, and it's not always possible. So I'm sorry that Anthony Bourdain chose that he ran out of options, felt that he was out of options. But I can understand it. I was almost there myself. Many people have been. You don't always have someone you can talk to. You know, if you got a friend, family, therapist, whatever it is, find someone to talk to, you know. Like, talk to your dog if it's what it takes. But I can see why it happens. Like with Bourdain, he seemed to be on top of it. He seemed like he'd handled things. You never know what people are going through. He was living what would be a dream life for me. The travel, the food, just meeting all the people. I mean, it was just, that would be amazing to me. But if you got the demons, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You got to deal with the demons. I don't know what his demons were, and apparently they were too much. I read something this morning on Facebook. It was a long post. I shared it on my page, on my Facebook page. You can go read the whole post. But the gist of it is dealing with depression is like it snows every day. Some days it snows an inch. You can get to work and school and no problem. Some days it snows a foot or 4 feet. Or the blizzard's so bad you can't open the door and all the power goes out. But it snows every day of your life. Different amounts. You have to shovel yourself out. It's nice if you have somebody to help shovel the snow. But it snows every day. It's a longer post and it makes more sense the way they wrote it, but that's kind of the gist of it. I recommend you go read it. It's on my Facebook page. I'll link to it down below. It is something that's difficult to deal with. If you haven't dealt with it, people online are already, well, because there was 2 celebrities this week that killed themselves. One was a fashion designer I had not heard of. Sorry, no offense, but I haven't. Other people are saying, well, why is it a big deal when a celebrity dies, but nobody cares about the 22 veterans that kill themselves every day? As a veteran, I can relate to that. It is important and it should be an issue. But no offense intended to the veterans or to anyone else that commits suicide. If you're a public figure, people think they know you. They follow you. If they don't know you, they at least know who you are. If I had committed suicide in '96, I would have been another faceless veteran that died. Nobody but my immediate friends and family would have known or cared. And sorry, but that's the way the world is. Yes, it is a big problem. There are, like at the Veterans Hospital, all the time, there are signs everywhere saying if you need help, call this. Every time you see a doctor, they ask you if you're having any suicidal thoughts. I mean, they're trying to stay on top of it. They've done really good work trying to get on top of it, which is something people don't like to point out when they talk about it. They just want to say it's a problem. The VA has done a lot of good on trying to deal with it. But basically, a faceless person in the crowd will get overlooked. And I say that as a faceless person in the crowd. So yeah, a Robin Williams or Anthony Bourdain, or honestly, I don't know that lady's name, I'm sorry, the fashion designer that killed herself earlier this week. Now, she and Bourdain both had young children, as I had young children at the time. And people are also talking how selfish of them to leave their child and do this, and the pain you leave behind, it's a selfish act. And really, when you're dealing with that, when you're deep into depression, that bone-crushing depression, you honestly feel that you've got so much wrong and you're such a problem that leaving them is helping them. They will be better off when I'm gone. Now, if you don't deal with depression, you can say, well, that's stupid. Well, as someone who has dealt with it, I agree it is stupid. But it's what you feel. And at the time, it feels true. You think you're such, you've got all these problems, there's so much wrong, you're dragging them down with you. And by leaving, they will be better off. I know that's not true, but yeah, at the time I really did feel it. I was like, they'd be better off without me. Glad I didn't do it, but I can understand why people do. And that's something we need more of, is just understanding, some empathy, some compassion. If you see somebody getting buried in the snow, help dig them out. Be that friend. That is important. And it's not always like, since I have dealt with depression and the chronic illness, which led to more depression, there's this good self-feeding, spiral out of control kind of concoction. I would cancel out on plans. I couldn't face going out. And sometimes the friends are understanding. Sometimes they think you're being an asshole. Eventually, most of them just give up. Friends, family, everybody's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's not going to come. And they just, they're giving you your space when you really need support. And it's difficult to deal with it on either side of that. But it's important, if you see someone that you think is struggling, just be a friend. You don't have to talk about the depression or the issues. Just be there and be a friend. And that can mean the difference between life and death. Let's work together and make that next step a good one.